All right, let's just jump right in. What if we could hit the reset button and redesign our entire civilization from scratch? It's a huge idea, right? Well, today, we're diving into a really ambitious blueprint for the future that does exactly that. We're going to be talking all about the Venus Project.
So, I want to kick things off with a pretty big question. When you think about all the problems in the world, war, poverty, pollution, do you see them as totally separate crises? Or could they all be symptoms of one single underlying problem? Just hang on to that thought as we go through this.
Because you see, to really get to the solution, you've got to understand the problem first. And the Venus Project? Well, they argue that all those challenges we just mentioned, they aren't separate at all. They're actually part of what they call a meta-crisis.
So what it really boils down to, according to them, is this. All these huge issues, climate change, poverty, war, they're not just random bad things that happen. Nope. They're actually the predictable results of a really basic flaw in how our world is set up, specifically the way we manage our global resources. The key takeaway here is that it's not about not having enough stuff, but about a total failure in how we manage it.
Okay, so if global resource mismanagement is the core problem, then what's the fix? Well, that's exactly where the Venus Project comes in. It's the organization we're focusing on today, and they have a pretty radical proposed solution.
So what is the Venus Project exactly? Well, officially, it's a nonprofit, and their whole mission is designing sustainable human habitats, basically places for us to live that work with the planet, not against it. It's all about designing a world that fits within Earth's natural limits, with the end goal of creating a culture that's more humane, truly sustainable, and always looking forward. And get this isn't some brand new idea that just popped up. The thinking behind the Venus Project has actually been in development for 90 years. That's a long time. And that history gives it this really unique weight, making it one of the very first organized attempts to tackle this whole meta-crisis we're talking about.
Okay, so now we know the what. But the big question is the how. I mean, how on earth do you even start to redesign an entire civilization? Let's dig into the project's core blueprint and the method behind the madness.
The entire approach is built on something they call a holistic design methodology. So instead of trying to patch up individual problems one by one, like playing whack-a-mole, the idea is to think like an architect. You're not fixing a leaky pipe. You're creating a brand new, fully integrated blueprint for the entire building, or in this case, for society itself.
And this blueprint is really built on three core pillars. First, there's interdisciplinarity. That's a fancy way of saying they pull the best ideas from every field of science and knowledge, not just sticking to one. Second, it's a systems approach. This just means recognizing that everything is connected. You can't change the economy without affecting education or the environment, and so on. And finally, the whole design has to be evolutionary. That means it's not set in stone, it's built to constantly learn, adapt, and get better over time. And this quote, man, this really gets to the heart of their entire philosophy. No civilization will prevail in the long term without acknowledging that the enhancement of human well-being depends first on its alignment with nature. I mean, what that's really saying is that human progress and a healthy planet aren't enemies. They're totally dependent on each other. And for any of it to work, aligning with nature has to be the #1 priority. You can kind of break down how they guide their thinking into three main areas. You've got the vision, which is that big picture, systems-based way of managing resources. Then there are the values, which are all about finding that perfect balance, between things like technology and nature, or individual freedom and social responsibility. And finally, there's the knowledge, basically pulling in all the scientific and technical know-how we have to actually make it happen.
I know. This all sounds super theoretical, right? A big, grand blueprint for the future. But what does the Venus Project actually do on a day-to-day basis? Let's bring this all back down to Earth and look at their real-world work.
Well, for starters, it has a real physical home base. The project is centered at a 21-acre research and development center in, you guessed it, Venus, Florida. How perfect is that? And this is their laboratory, where they can actually test out their ideas and develop these concepts in the real world.
So what are they working on there? Well, let's take food and agriculture, for example. They're building things like integrated aquaponics systems. They're using something called banana circles, which is this super efficient way to compost and plant at the same time. And they're creating these amazing vertical hanging gardens. These aren't just cool science projects. They're small, practical tests of the bigger principles we've been talking about.
All right, so we've looked at the problem, the big blueprint for a solution, and even some of the hands-on experiments. So, what's next? What's the actual path forward to get from where we are today to that future? Well, the project's next big step is something they're calling Venus Evolutions, and it's all about that exact question, building a bridge to the future. The whole focus is on creating transition strategies, a way to get us from our current situation of ecological overshoot, which basically means we're using up resources way faster than the Earth can renew them, and move us towards a civilization that's actually sustainable in the long run.
And that really brings us full circle, back to that one powerful central question that drives the whole Venus project. And it's a question for all of us, really. If we could just wipe the slate clean, set aside all our current systems and limitations, and use every single thing we know, all of our science, our technology, our understanding of the planet, what kind of world would we actually build? It's a question that really pushes you to stop thinking about just fixing what's broken and start imagining what it would be like to design a future that's actually worth living in.